And with that, I would like to end my short session and to introduce you to the next video, which highlights, I believe, is a very, very innovative company, the TAL Group. Let's take a look at the video, and in a minute, we'll be introducing you to their CEO, Mr. Roger Lee. did you lead the team through COVID with a lot of retail closures, impact on different businesses? What is your experience leading the team through change?
It's been an interesting experience, I think, for all of us. I would say we're fortunate and unfortunate in that we had already adapted to working virtually prior to COVID. We had installed our own video conferencing system across the group 4 years ago to reduce travel and to really work a lot more in person rather than emails or messages, really live video. So we really had the infrastructure set up, and we're used to talking to each other over video conferencing. Um, so from that point of view, we were okay. We're used to it. But the big change really happened in March when a lot of our customers, and 85% of our export is to the U.S. market. So US economy is a big impact to our business. So in March is really when they started realizing COVID is going to hit the US market. And that's when we, I guess, changed into more of a crisis mode and really deciding what we're going to do. At that time, I think you remember most countries were already locked down. Our headquarters is in Hong Kong, but my family and myself were in Singapore and still are. And my teams were working in their respective countries. So we really had to do everything over video conference and couldn't really get into a room to do anything together. And the first thing we did was look at from April to December this year, what were we expecting for the rest of the year? And the first natural question is ask your customers what's going on, what are they seeing? And our customers said, oh, down about 15-20%. We'll be shut for 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, and then we'll be back in business by May or June. And we got together and we said, through our experience in Asia, in SARS, we don't think it's going to be that quick. So,
Yes.
so we had to unfortunately disregard our customers' forecast, and we decided on our own forecast. And we said, let's be aggressive. Let's plan down 50% capacity from April to December. And that's a big change for us because when we we had 25,000 people pre-COVID. We're full every month or 90 to 100% utilization every month. And to plan down 50% is a huge change for us. But I said, let's do that and let's see where we come out. If we're down 50%, what do we have to do? So we took 2 weeks. We went through every single aspect of the business, and we came out with, I think, 4 or 5 major initiatives. The first one was on our manufacturing footprint. Are we going to need to keep so many facilities open in the next 1, 2, 3 years? It's just going to be over by end of the year. And we decided that we will take the opportunity to close one of our countries that we have been in, and that's Malaysia. We've been in Malaysia for over 40 years. The cost of labor has been going up every year. And we decided, instead of waiting 5 more years, where probably we would have done it in 5 years' time, take the actions now. And 5,000 people we had to let go. Fortunately, we were able to find jobs for many of them, because many of them are foreign workers. They could not go home, and actually a lot of companies in Malaysia wanted new labor and couldn't get any. So it was actually when we transferred a lot of our workers over to other companies in Malaysia. But it was a hard decision after 40 plus years in Malaysia to close down. But that was one thing. So reduce our overall capacity footprint was number one. Number two, I think, is what everyone else did, which was we freeze your capital expenditure to conserve cash. We went to Friday, no work Friday, so no paid leave. Even though we actually did work in the end, but we all agreed voluntarily to take it all pay cut from the top to the bottom. We obviously cut a lot of expenses, froze headcount across the whole company. And basically we said, okay, if we do all that, we think we'll be okay. We'll lose a lot of money. We'll lose probably equivalent last 10 years of profit in 1 year, but we will still survive. We tested our bottom line and said with 50% down, we will still survive end of the year and come out okay. And fast forward to today, our forecast, I don't know, you call it fortunate or unfortunate, was pretty accurate. We have been down 50% because our product is much more in the formal range. It's workwear. We were making basically men's workwear. That's what we're known for. And when people are
Yeah.
working from home, they don't wear workwear. I mean, I dressed up tonight just for this, but normally I'm in a t-shirt, right, or polo shirt, and that's where everyone is. So people are not buying our products. If we were
Mm.
much more in the t-shirt casual wear, I think our impact would be a lot less. So those were the things that I think were really tangible, easy to measure items that we did. I think that the tougher part that we never really had to worry about were bankruptcies. So customers were filing bankruptcies. We have investments in different brands, and that was in jeopardy. We had to decide whether, for one of our investments, were we going to let the company go bankrupt, lose everything we've put in over the last 5 years, or were we actually going to put more money in to take it into bankruptcy to clean out some debt and come out healthier. So those were things that I've never done before. Our team's never done before, but things you have to do, and really understand the Chapter 11 process in the US on legally what we can do, cannot do. That was a learning, and I think the other area that was a big learning for us was managing customers' credit risk. Because when
Yeah.
times were good, the credit insurance companies were great. They gave you as much, they were insuring all our brands, all our customers' purchase orders. But when times are bad, they cut everything off. It's not like health
Absolutely.
insurance where you pay 10 years of premium and in the next year you get sick, they still cover you. In our industry, you pay 10 years of credit insurance, and then when they want to cut you off, they cut you off in the year that you need
Mm.
help. So it's been tough. So then we had to ourselves go and become credit insurers and say which customers are we going to take new purchase orders, which ones are we not going to take new purchase orders,
Mm.
and really a lot of detail and really testing our skill set where we normally are not credit analysts to do that with whatever information we have available. And I think from that we've learned a lot and we've managed our risk, and we've been quite tough with some customers that are in a very tough credit situation because we have to protect our workers too. So those are different areas of things that we've done in the last since March, I would say.
Well, hearing what you're saying, I mean, it does sound like, very, you're quite easy talking about it, but then I could imagine the heartbreak and the sleepless nights and the tough decisions. But one point that I would really like to dive slightly deeper in is you mentioned that you decided not to listen to your customers in terms of forecasts, and turns out you were right. So, what is it behind that? Is that intelligence? Is that collaborative knowledge? What is it behind that made you decide, no, that's not going to happen. We're just going to trust ourselves and we're going to do this?
That's a good question. I don't know. I can't tell you. I mean, there was a moment where our teams we were looking through the numbers and saying, down 15%. By
Mm.
June they'll be back in business, and we're like, it doesn't sound right. Through what we've experienced in SARS in Asia, it just doesn't sound so easy. Because I said, once you go into lockdown, what's the trigger for you to get out of lockdown? And as we've
Mm.
experienced, is the number of new cases, right? And in US, we didn't think that they were going to get out of the number of new cases because there was no lockdown, there's nothing that soon. So in our gut, we're just like, something is wrong. Now, what I learned through that process, and I think that's what we used basically, was there were two types of customers. One type of customer says, I'm going to be down 15% this year. Some said maybe 30%. But another type of customer said, I've tested my bottom line. I know that the bottom line is if I do less than 20%, if I'm down to 20% of my previous level, I'll be out of business, liquidating the business. But if I'm at
Ah.
21%, I'll still be alive. Okay. So you test your bottom line. And when I say 50%, we were testing our bottom line. We were saying 50%, which is really a big number if you think about it at that time, back in March when you had no forecasts, we really said 50% will be fine. Okay, and I think
Mm.
when you think, I think in this crisis, what I've learned is brands or customers or companies or leaders that saying, "Oh, we'll be over soon," and no one has a crystal ball, as opposed to things that I have tested my bottom line, I know how low I can go, and you know what? I'm not comfortable. I think there's a chance I get that low. Let's do something now. Let's not wait for three
Mm.
more months before I decide what to do.
Yeah.
Leaders in these times need to be decisive, because if you're not decisive, you're burning cash every day. and leaving you with few options. You want to have as many options as you can. So the longer you drag it on to make a decision, the less options you have over time.
And if I decode your message, is also for leaders to be able to come out to not just sugarcoat the situation, to be able to look at what's real, what do we know, and to be brave enough to say, you know what, this is something I don't know, but that's the bottom line. So if we have leaders like these in the organization, and that would be very much, what I'm hearing from the TAL group is that, you have the experience of SARS in this part of the world. You look at what the broad situation is. You're not willing to just take the easy answer, yes, down 15%, and be able to party with it. But then you really looked at the difficult conversations. So that's something that I find very admiring.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
So
indeed.
you.
on that note,
Thank you. So I was just going to
so
say, I think when times are bad, it's always best to test your bottom line, plan for the worst, and hope for the best. And that's the message we gave in our town halls. We did a lot of town halls. We normally do it once a quarter. We did it more often during that time, to tell people the reality. But I have a different approach when it comes to taking risks. When we want to take risk and launch a new product, to go after a customer, open a new country, I'm always very positive. I don't say worst case is going to be this if we go to Ethiopia. When we went to Ethiopia, I said best case is if you go to Ethiopia, this is what's going to happen. So I think you got to find an appropriate time to go best case and appropriate time to go worst case.